Hello, welcome back to the Matchday Gab. Thank you so much for tuning in. So the special guest we have on our channel today is the most talented sports coordinator, shortlisted for the Telegraph Author of the Year for his book in 2020. He is the author to the book, The European Game, The Local, and the upcoming book, The Global. It's Dan Fieldsend. So I'll let everyone know how we know each other. It wasn't actually through his books. We actually went to Paris away with each other. Found each other at Sainsbury's, wasn't it? And that was where our coach started.
Yeah.
And we saw all these other coaches quite fancy, like had all beds in it and it had all tables.
Disco balls.
It was just all good and like TVs. And then our coach come up and I was like, no one's going to be able to move.
It's like Happy Owls, wasn't it?
And I remember I was like, I'm getting to the front. I'm making sure, because they had the tiniest bit of room. The drivers were boss, but they didn't know fans us off, did they?
Because he kept shouting at Les.
Yeah.
They were from the Black Country, weren't they? And he kept shouting stuff, and you heard it at the front, but we were at the back and we didn't have a clue what was getting said.
No.
The whole time. What was it, 19 hours or so?
Like getting, obviously, to Dover, we had a bit of trouble, didn't we?
The fellas at the back, I didn't know them before we got on that bus.
No, neither did I.
We were thick as thieves when we got there, like, and how would you describe them? They weren't rough, were they? But they were definitely streetwise.
Oh, you know what we were saying when they were getting us all to sing hymns? I thought that was great. Honestly, like it was they were just the characters, like the old trip. Some people they peed off, some people everyone had to laugh at. I giggled to myself because I just buzzed off like the atmosphere that was going on. Got to border control and I remember we had to pay loads for tests. COVID was rife still, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And all these Reds travelling over. And I got the nice one. I remember there was another man and then he pulled up his email and he said about his passport, like, or the testing, they said, no, that's fake. What was he saying
The
about?
lad at the back, who was like kind of the ringleader of the group, he was like, there were kids on it, not kids per se, but there were young fellas on it from the Isle of Wight.
Yeah.
And not everyone on it was a Scouser, because by the point you're buying coaches to go, it's like a last resort, innit? So people were coming from all over the country to get on these buses to go. And to all like the non-locals, he was screaming down the bus going, we never leave a man behind. No one's going anywhere. And we were sat there for pushing 45 minutes. And some people were getting disgruntled and there was arguments going on. And this guy was saying, no, we do not leave a man behind. And then on the way back, the same thing happened coming back into the country. But by which point it was about 40 hours without sleep. Leave him. No one likes him anyway. Funny you said about the church songs on that, because we went through the entire repertoire. Every Liverpool song I'd ever heard was getting belted out. Someone had the audacity to start singing Lewis Garcia at one point. Yeah. And then there was a lull and it was pushing midnight and you're just listening to the sound of the vehicle. And then some lad starts singing from the back, here I am, Lord.
Yeah, I remember that. And everyone joined in.
Absolutely went off. So then we were going through hymns then, weren't we, for a good hour?
Yeah.
It was a great trip.
I remember getting on that boat and I had no sleep or anything. And you were with your dad and you were like, aren't you having a beer? I was like, no, I'm just trying to sleep, because everyone was having a drink still. Like people were meeting up. It was just like, for a Liverpool European away, everyone needs to experience it. You should meet great people through football. I've always said that, you know, growing up and finding people's stories, what they do with the club, you know, every aspect. And we've all got the same passion. I was gutted to couldn't go Ajax, but the Ajax fans are great. You know, in the ground, you can have a drink at the stadium. It's just... And
you get treated like a human.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I don't know how the authorities in UEFA haven't clocked on, and not just UEFA, but police in every city we go to. When you get treated like an animal, you're more inclined to act animalistically.
Yeah.
But when you get treated with humanity, you act like a human. Ajax, if anything, was the perfect tonic after Paris, because when we went to Amsterdam, didn't have to get off early, even though everyone did. Because when I went to Paris years ago, we kept behind 2 hours. You're always used to getting kept behind the hours after the game, aren't you?
Yeah.
And everyone was
Fun.
over in Amsterdam. I've never seen an away end empty out like that in Amsterdam. I think it was about 75 minutes gone. There was only about 200 people left. Everyone was getting on the trams going back to the city because you don't want to get kept behind.
Yeah.
As it transpired, they let us go anyway because, like I say, they treat you like a human and you act nicely back. Some of these fan bases that are steeped in European football and they're used to it. It's a mate-making exercise. You Real Madrid yesterday, you saw it with the clapping.
Yeah.
Liverpool, Ajax, Bayern Munich, ones who've been there and done it for years. You go abroad and you want to make connections and have stories and get to know people from different cultures. It's the new teams to European football that want to go and fight and cause aggro. And it kind of peeves me that that's not what we're about. When we go away into Europe, we're not about fighting and looking for confrontation. But yet we still get tarred like every other English hooligan type because the authorities expect us to act in a certain way. And there's a predetermined prejudice against us by the time we even get. So that's where Paris comes from.
Yeah.
It was steeped in stereotypes. Whereas when we actually get there, what we want to do is just find a bar, we put our bags away, get your banners up, sit and relax and have a sing-song.
So also I want to talk about the Reds at the minute. Hit and miss, aren't we?
We are hit and miss, but I always look at being a Liverpool fan stoically. Like, the way the modern world is now, you're 5 minutes away from disaster, you're 5 minutes away from glory, and I'm not about that. Liverpool, all right, we're going through a dry patch per se at the minute, but we're never going to be a small club. We're never going to be deprived of European trips, etc., and the opportunity to have adventures. So there's a positive to take from every negative.
Yeah.
And if we end up in the Europa League next season, then 5 years from now, we'll still be a big club.
Yeah.
And we'll have a great adventure anyway, because in the Champions League, you go to the same 10 cities every season. But we'll get in the Europa League, and from a fan's perspective, we'll go to more obscure places.
Yeah.
I'll be in Stockholm with my mates rather than being in Madrid for the 10th time.
I just want to get back on track. Want to make sure Jurgen's okay. That's most importantly.
Yeah.
I see a lot of Bill Shankly in him, the way he works and the way he does believe stuff. And you go through your ups and downs of football all the time.
Absolutely. And you get tarnished if you speak like this online nowadays. You get called a top red for not demanding the absolute, I don't know what he demands. It changes every week. But our fundamental jobs as football supporters is to support and believe and not to demand too much. We don't want to put pressure on your idols who are already pressured enough.
Yeah.
Obviously, I want the very best for Liverpool FC. But I'm not going to be like every other type of Tin Pot fan and boo them when things aren't going our way.
I really can't. Like, when they're saying Jurgen Klopp out, and I'm like, are you mess up?
I know.
Yeah.
I try not to go on social media because of it, but it catches up with you in the end.
It does.
It creeps
really
in from
does.
the shadows.
What was your favourite European away?
Oh, Christ, favourite? Probably Kiev.
Yeah.
Because of the distance of Kiev as well. It wasn't like Madrid or Paris because it took that little bit more to get there.
How did you get there?
I think it was like 3 flights.
No way.
Yeah, I honestly can't remember some of the most obscure countries in Eastern Europe. But when you got there, then I ended up staying. Do you remember Free Couch Kiev? It was this.
I've heard of it.
It was an initiative, right? Because similar to what's happening in Liverpool now with the Eurovision, the hotels. I've seen seen the fact that there's going to be an influx of people in Kiev and they charge through the roof. It was so expensive to get over there. And people were paying $1,000 for one bed for one night.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
But the locals then put a Facebook page up and created this Free Couch Kiev initiative. And I went on Facebook, I had it at the time, and I just put on saying, like, can anyone host me? And I'm not just saying it, I had my choice of pick. 5 people replied saying, Gweb, we'll have you. So I ended up staying with this girl, Katya. And it's horrible seeing her on social media now with everything going on in Ukraine.
Oh,
and
bless her.
She's had to flee to the countryside and she's trying to get her parents to leave the country, but they're, digging the heels in and what have you. But back then, like, she didn't speak English. Obviously, I didn't speak Ukrainian, and we were talking through Google Translate.
No way.
Took her into the Shevchenko Park, and all the ales there were about 13% in lager. So it was blowing my mind. So
Oh man, he's such a daft.
I could only have one, but I was saying I had to make a shandy. And she was going, what's this? I was trying to explain through Google Translate, this is a shandy.
No way.
What's that?
Like you put a lemonade and like, what's he doing?
She was, wow, like mind blowing. But we had the best time. It was a blistering hot day. I think Boss Nights were at the peak then.
Yeah, it was.
And it was just that banner there, my mum made in the run up to Kiev. And looking back now, like glory days, them every day was sunny in the run up for months, it felt like. And I remember my ma sitting on the garden, like we haven't got the house now, and life seems to have changed significantly since then.
Yeah.
But that takes me back, to like a moment in time. And sitting watching my mum put all the spacing in between the letters and she had stencils through cards from cereal packages, old boxes of cereal, and she made the stencils and put them on, stitched it, took her hours and hours and hours. So it's like, all right, I could have paid and got one made and maybe spent 150 quid on it.
I think it's more special coming from your mum now, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's like something I'd cherish for life, that banner. And so that was for Kiev, and everything was just a coming together of just a great era in life. What was I, like 27 years of age, so no stress, no worries. Yeah,
very young at heart, weren't you?
Still am, thank you very much.
No, I'm saying you're not now. So you take this mostly everywhere with you? No,
I don't actually. I only take it to European aways.
Yeah.
Like I got it out on the period when we won the Champions League. Put it out then because it felt European. But I won't take it to domestics. I won't chance it getting half-inched by anyone. And also, I don't want to cheapen the sentimental value of it for me, because I love seeing it in European stadiums and negotiating and trying to get it in, etc. That's part of the fun as well. So, like, for me growing up, the San Siro was the epicenter of football, and it's been there twice. And I love its little roll call of places that it's been as well.
Oh, I love that. I like just having a history with a band. And I say, with all memorabilia, through the years, even when you give it to your kids and that, you can explain the story behind where you've got it from, what's the meaning from it, and it is the best thing. But yeah, we're going to move on to the amazing work that you do. I've read your books. I've read Local twice over now. I know it like word from word. And the European game. And then we're also going to talk about the new book that is upcoming called The Global. So yeah, first of all, why the front cover? Why did you go for it?
The front cover, I got my mate to design this, the badge for it. I just wanted it to have something visual, like people could identify with. And it's like a footy club badge, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the value of the European game came out just before, like, all football clubs kind of shared similar methodologies. But when this came out, 2015, it was just on the threshold of clubs retaining their own kind of unique way of developing players, of improving their own style of play, etc. Yeah. So then, like, Barcelona were unique, and Bayern Munich hadn't tried to play the same style, and Man City hadn't tried to play the same style. Ajax had their own unique ways of developing youngsters, whereas Liverpool now do things the Ajax way, etc. So it was just pre-globalisation. And it also places a value, which I think is important, and I think football clubs should still remember, on local communities. So it talks about something called psychogeography, and it's how a place is shaped by its actual physical geography. So, for example, in Marseille is out on the coast, it faces out to sea, and there's something of a paranoia, a fear of outsiders sometimes at times, or a fear of not so much outsiders, insiders, the French nation up ahead of it. And therefore the clubs almost ran with paranoia, and that goes through that kind of psychogeography thread, linked every single club. Feyenoord, for example, Rotterdam's out again on the waterfront, and the wind sweeps in. It's cold for the most part, and people there are tough. and they don't have indoor facilities for their kids to train in, the academy kids. So whether you're like under 6 or under 18, you're playing outside.
Yeah.
And that's their philosophy, that you'll grow up as a kid, you'll be tough. So when you come to play for the first team, you are going to be a rock solid type player. They don't, like, the facilities look Sunday league almost at the Feyenoord in Rotterdam. And it's interesting because that is their philosophy, and that's something that they'll adhere to and abide by, and have done for years. Likewise, we talked about Bilbao before.
Yeah.
They think that their strength is through the fact that they are part of the Basque region, and they won't have players from outside the Basque region play for them. And then you go and you play, not only play for, but they're educated, the kids who play for Athletic Bilbao, they're educated on the history of the Basque region. They're taught, despite being footballers, about how Franco let Adolf Hitler drop bombs in Guernica so he could try out his warplanes. And that was in the Basque country, and Basque people died. And academy kids are taught about that, because when they come to play for the first team, it's like representing their own family's identity, and they'll run through walls for it.
Yeah.
So the European game wasn't about Europe per se. It was about all these individual strands that make continental football interesting.
I saw like a picture of like all the places that you did go to. What was your favourite stadium you say you went to visit?
Ajax was brilliant, because they couldn't have done more for me, and welcomed me in. And I was telling one of the kids in work about it the other day. I was sat in the cafeteria doing my interview, and we're in such and just distance away. There's like Jaap Stam, Dennis Bergkamp was there, Edwin van der Sar. It was just star-studded, because that's what Johan Cruyff wanted at the academy at the time. He'd passed away, Johan Cruyff, about a month before me visiting. I didn't realise that he was ill. But then getting there, his philosophy for Ajax was that our legends should be the ones who enshrine the club and bring through future generations. So sitting there and just seeing how star-studded it was brilliant. Met Patrick Kluivert, his son was playing at the time for the academy. It was just, great. Like, for a football fan, it was a dream.
Do you know what I loved as well? The comment you made. Playing by playing, that's a cheat. You went through, trained, you saw change. So you were in, obviously, the outside bit of the countryside, and then you're going into the city and you're like, wow, the difference. I think that's important. You started off in Paris, didn't you?
Started off in Lille, actually.
Oh, okay.
But Lille didn't make the cut.
Oh, no
Lille
way.
was a disaster. But I don't talk about that.
Okay. So that was
it's not bad.
Minus one chapter.
It was just one chapter down. Just logistical nightmare. So started. Well, the map's here.
So if you showed the map, I was going to show you
Grace,
it. You're going to actually kill me because I've put like highlights in your book.
That's all right. Good books get written in, don't they? Paris to Lyon, through the Basque country.
Yeah.
Through Galicia to Portugal, and then across Spain, Italy.
If you just show it to that camera, if they can see it.
There.
Can we see it? Right, yeah, you get the gist. I'll put it in. What I loved as well is that you call stadiums by them instead of it, personifying it, making them to be a person, as you said.
In football clubs in general. We do that in Liverpool as it is. We'll talk about a football club as them. But journalists have a way of talking about, say, Real Madrid, it is a great club. They are a great club, if that makes sense. Also communities, it's personal to families and individuals. And a football club only exists because it belongs to a body of people. And that's why I'd always like to personalise it like that.
With the European game and the local, Liverpool is very much like Europe. As you said, European money helped Liverpool, develop, and this is why like the docks are amazing.
You know what it's like as a Scouser, wherever you go across, you go into Europe and you cross into the continent, and listen, you don't know about predetermined stereotypes, so you're treated like a hero in some places like Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Whereas in your own country, I could go an hour across and, people have very different views about what it is to be Scouse, etc. And I don't like to draw on it too much.
Yeah.
But it does get to the point almost whereby coming back into Liverpool is like being in a safe place almost.
That's what I always say.
Sometimes I think that can be a limitation as well in life at times.
Yeah, it can be.
We are very homely. You think about like some of the great Scouse players of the past number of years. You've
Yeah.
got, well, obviously Gerrard stayed, Carragher stayed. Franny Jeffers is probably the most exotic because he went down south to play for Arsenal. On the flip side, Scousers are great travellers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like the Irish, and wherever you go in the world, you're more than likely going to bump into a Scouser. Or if not, when you go, you feel quite comfortable. It's something inherent within you that there's an ease to travel, and there's a desire to as well.
When I went to Ibiza, it was full of people who were Scousers.
You know what's funny, right? Like, I've got a story like that. A guy I met once. I don't know if you know him. He calls himself the real life Bear Grylls, and he's from Liverpool, and he ran across the circumference of America. So he started East Coast. He ran the West Coast. He did it for money, and he was in one of the middle states, and he was on this long road, and he'd been jogging all day. Like, sun comes up, sun goes down. One car went past the whole day.
Yeah.
And in the distance, you know where I'm going with this story. In the distance, he was telling us he saw this little dot running, and it was getting closer and closer. And a fella like stops him. Same thing had happened to him. He was jogging, going the opposite direction, and they got chatting. And he went, "Where are you from?" He went, "I'm from Liverpool. I'm from West Derby."
Oh my God.
The chance, like, it's unbelievable.
It's mad, isn't it?
I've had the same conversation. Like, everyone's probably got a story like that.
Yeah.
I remember being 18, going to Grand Canyon. And it wasn't the kind of touristic side of the Grand Canyon. People go to Utah, I think. We were in Nevada, and came from Flagstaff, Arizona, and it was getting late. I'd been working, coaching footy. And by the time we got to the Grand Canyon and we set up camp, and we were sitting on this rock, and the sun goes down, and we probably were there for all of an hour. And this like the rock behind us, this lad was talking to his girlfriend, and just goes, "Wasn't great, was it?" And I turn around like that, and I go, "Bloody hell, he was a Scouser as well." You know, wherever you go in the world. Yeah, but I don't know, maybe that's just chances.
So this is your newish book. So when did this come out? Was it
2019?
2019. So it was shortlisted by the Telegraph. And this book just had no words for it. You know, reading your acknowledgements, and I got into the book before that. You know, sometimes you miss the acknowledgements and start with the chapter. And I'm going to analyse this book to the full. So first of all, why did you choose the design?
So a friend of mine, Jules, she's an artist from Crosby.
Oh, amazing.
And she did that front cover because it's a very kind of Scouse image. This is when we were, I'm pretty sure, still in the Europa League around the Dortmund time.
Yeah.
And proper Scouse image that. Like,
it is.
It more so than just because it was spontaneous and it was creative and it was out of the ordinary. Everyone's lining up waiting for the coach. Everyone does coach welcomes now, but when we did it, no one was doing them. And the scaffolding that was going up in one of the houses there by the King Harry, it was full of scallies, and the mates were throwing banners up for them to tie up and that. And the final image it was beautiful seeing it, because it was, like I say, it wasn't pre-planned. It was just, I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
And I thought that makes a good image for the book, because I wanted the book to be not isolationist. It's not excluding people who aren't from Liverpool, but obviously it tells the story of Liverpool's history. And I wanted a very Scouse image for it. And I could have got the Shankly statue or something else that does a similar job. But like I say, that was, everyone in that potentially was a Scouser or a young scally kid. Everyone was under the age of 25 up there climbing up. It was a little bit lawless. It was a bit rogue. And if anything, that's what the civic history of Liverpool has been. A little bit going against the grain and doing what you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
So it just seemed like a natural pit. And if anything, listen, I'm just a conduit for the book, because I don't really put my input in. Everything in there is from the people I interviewed.
Yeah.
And everyone I interviewed, again, was a local. But for the most part, was associated with Liverpool FC. So when I spoke to Carragher, he was talking about kind of growing up in Bootle in the Jamie Bulger days and people's views of what it was like at Bootle at the time in the 90s.
Yeah.
John Aldridge talks about Thatcherism, and Steve McMahon talks about growing up again in the shadow of industrial dispute, and then what happened post Hillsborough, etc. So I went back as far back as Chris Lawler, who's post-war generation. Quotes are interesting because they're first hand, but that's what I wanted to portray almost, is like what life was like for people who came to play for Liverpool. Let them tell the story of the city's history and not me.
Exactly that. And I'm just going to pick out a few things in the book because I think the quotes and what you do explain. And I think with the content page where you do each chapter, you know, you're actually choosing iconic people, songwriters, bands, you know, singers.
Yeah.
I think that's quite interesting to have. So you've got people like Bob Dylan, the Beatles, you've got Jerry and the Peacemakers.
And songs define eras as well, don't they?
Yeah.
So obviously the Beatles, Merseybeat, etc. is an era. But likewise, so was Jerry Cinnamon around that time when the book came out, because he speaks for your generation.
Yeah, it does.
And therefore, not just your generation now, but what it's like for your generation growing up with the political divide, etc., cancel culture, all these things that go on. The difficulties of life in the city nowadays, and austerity measures.
Yeah.
Jerry Cinnamon's songs aren't just about, whatever the intended lyrics are. It's about who's listening to them, where they're listening to it, how old they are, etc. It's about life at that time. So that's what I thought with the contents. They're all song titles.
I think that's clever. So Chris Lawler, where he says, I've travelled but I always lived in Liverpool. When I moved to Norway coaching for a bit, but I still had to live near water. So you mention this quite a lot in your book. Being near water, it's quite a spiritual thing, because we do mention, with holy water, religion, football, and a city can be like religion, where you follow it every single day about the culture, and us going the games every week.
The other day to me about religion. It's like a Shankly quote, isn't it? Like, football is more important than life and death. But there are still strands, I suppose, in Liverpool fandom of religious elements. We're not sectarian, we're not Protestant or Catholic, etc. But I loved it in Paris when everyone was singing Liverpool Hallelujah. From the old video. So good. It was innocent and it was nice.
Yeah.
Ourselves as our own place, because we don't fit within the British norm at the minute.
No.
If you look at like the fascination that Boris Johnson got as a politician, and he was voted in like absolutely en masse by the British public. But Boris Johnson was someone who was already hated in Liverpool because of his comments about the Hillsborough disaster in an article that he published in 2004. And then you got Britain's biggest selling newspapers, The Sun, etc.
Yeah.
Brexit wasn't for Liverpool, but it was for the people of Britain. And it's almost like a culmination of things whereby we don't kind of see ourselves fitting in the picture here of what it is. And listen, there's people in London who hate Boris Johnson and hate Brexit and don't buy The Sun, etc. But for the majority, they are the majority newspaper, majority politician voted for, etc. And in Liverpool, it's the complete antithesis of that. When David Fairclough says we see ourselves as our own place, it can be a strength. It can also be a limitation as well at times. There's a thread that runs through football cities on the coast.
Yeah.
And you look at like the first European Cups were won in Rotterdam and Hamburg and Porto. The only ever European trophy that went to Scandinavia, went to Gothenburg. Because all these places are on the coast, and there's a shared hardship. A lot of these places suffered austerity as well, but also there's tribalism and there's attachment to football there.
Yeah, of course there is.
So Liverpool is unique in one sense, but not so in others.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've had shared experiences with other port cities. Writing that book was like a portal into a previous life. Not one I lived, but one that my dad and then my grandfather lived. When Ian Callaghan talks about his first game for Liverpool, and he, like you say, he got the bus in, and he was sitting on the bus with the fans going to Anfield, and the stewards wouldn't let him through because he was saying, "Who are you?" And he said, "I'm playing today."
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And he got on the bus, and people didn't know who he was. Going home, people didn't know who he was. That age of innocence is splendid, isn't it? You look back.
I think they probably miss that now, don't they?
Yeah.
Being able to do that. I just want to end it on a little quote from Shankly. just because I think it's brilliant what he says, and it's to do with socialism and what he was, the type of person. So he put, the socialist I believe in is not really politics. It is a way of living. It is humanity. I believe the only way to live and to be truly successful is by collective effort, where everyone working for each other, everyone helping each other, and having a share of rewards at the end of the day. That might be asking a lot, but it's the way I see football and the way I see life. I think that collectively explains what Shankly's about.
Shankly and Liverpool FC and Jurgen Klopp now.
Yeah.
You know, we've never had success as a club at times when we haven't been in it together, and there hasn't been a kind of thread and a what's the word for it, like a link between the fans as well as the club, all moving in the same direction. When before FSG, when Hicks and Gillette were in, and there was obviously tension between the fans and the ownerships, the club wasn't successful on the pitch either. It always has to be harmonious for Liverpool FC to win anything, and long may it continue again into the future, and which it will. Like I say,
It
we'll
will.
view it stoically.
We've got so much to experience. Like I say, we're only quite young still.
I remember years ago, right, and it stayed with me. This I was in Barcelona with my mum, and we were on the train, and there was an Israeli guy, and he was talking about who he supports. He supported Maccabi Haifa, and I said, I'm a Liverpool fan. And when you're young, you talk to people, you're gregarious, you want to learn about people's lives. And I remember him saying to me, like I was saying, we're going through a bad patch now, Liverpool, and he scoffed, and he was like, your bad patch, you don't know how lucky you are. Like, you still have world-class players, internationals playing for you that you get to go and see every week. Whereas our bad patches, I could play for Maccabi Haifa. You know, like, we're not a great team, but I'll still go and see them every week. It's just in context.
It is.
Like, Liverpool FC might be going through blips and might have dips and then we'll have glory again, but then we'll have more dips. But we'll never get relegated. We'll never have to watch substandard athletes play for the club. For the most part, people will play for Liverpool and want to win games and have talent. There'll always be a talisman in every squad. So even like before Brendan Rodgers came in and, you know, Roy Hodgson's team, there was still Steven Gerrard there.
Yeah.
Or when Kenny's team was starting to dip in his last season, there was still Luis Suarez there.
Yeah.
You know, there's always going to be great players at the club, and that's when we look stoically at it. All right, you might get called a top head, but I just enjoy it.
Yeah,
I just love
same.
being a Liverpool fan. I wouldn't change it for the world. I'd take the dips because then I love the highs more.
Yeah.
If I'm a Real Madrid fan and we've won 14 European Cups, I'm not enjoying the ride as much.
No.
Like, that's, you got to be a proper football fan to take the low moments.
Yeah.
And if your low moments, the fact that you're still a Premier League side, you're still in European Cup, all right, you might still get top 4, but you drew a few games this season. It's not really all that low, is it?
No. You know, we've still got legends who've still got legendary in the club. And yeah, I just want to say a big thank you for coming onto the channel. I really appreciate it. You know, when we had our meeting, I thought, wow, we could discuss so many topics, and we have. So I really do thank you so much for coming on. And you're welcome anytime. The Global is, do you know what date it could be coming out?
It could be a year from now, Global.
Yeah.
And that's still a working title as well. We've had some mad findings as well for Global. So the premise of it, the next book, it's like Local in the sense that it's about society and Liverpool FC's attachment to society.
Yep.
But for all the fans across the world. So we spoke to like Lebanese Reds about how they came to follow Liverpool FC. And some of the stories are harrowing. Like one guy said, I never met my father, but I support Liverpool FC because during the troubles in Lebanon, my dad was given a pin badge by a British soldier, and it was a liver bird. And he said, like, my dad, I never met, he got blew up when he was a baby by an Israeli airstrike, killed his dad. But he said, when I support Liverpool FC, it brings me closer.
Oh, that's special.
Yeah, they're the stories we're trying to tell in Global. Not just, again, Liverpool's history, which we're all quite familiar with, but the history of the modern world.
I'm excited for it. Thank you once again. I want to say thank you for everyone tuning in, and I hope you liked this episode. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.